So anaphylactic shock is a life-threatening complication of a severe allergic reaction marked by a rapid drop in BP and inadequate organ perfusion. There is systemic vasodilatation, capillary leakage, and bronchospasm. And the triggers can be drugs, latex, or fluid, foods. Symptoms we have already discussed. Common triggers we have already discussed. Immediate management steps ABCD, airway, breathing, IV access, fluid boluses. First line is IM adrenaline every 3 to 5 minutes. Repeat if needed. Refractory cases escalate to IV adrenaline infusion, vasopressin, glucagon, especially if the patient is on beta blocker therapy beforehand. And in an extremely refractory case, near pericardiac arrest situation also, ECMO may be required because ECMO can be given as a temporary measure until the effect of anaphylaxis wanes off. Okay, and here the ECMO, the type of ECMO which will be indicated will be the veno arterial ECMO because we are also supporting the hemodynamics. Antihistamines, corticosteroids, and bronchodilators are only used in adjuncts. This is very, very important. Giving Avil Dexona is not the main treatment. It's only adjunctive treatment. Okay. So prevention is very, very important, and if possible, identify the risk factors and avoid their use. Let's see another patient. A 17-year-old develops generalized hives, wheezing, and dizziness 20 minutes into soccer practice. She ate a wheat-containing sandwich 1 hour before the exercise. She has never reacted to wheat when resting. Which feature best supports a diagnosis of food-dependent exercise-induced anaphylaxis? Many of you may not have heard about this diagnosis, but this is an upcoming topic of discussion, especially in critical care and the rheumatological areas, this FDEIA. And first, let's see what is FDEIA. Okay. So FDEIA is a food-dependent exercise-induced anaphylaxis. So it is a rare allergic condition triggered only by combining specific foods with physical exercise. Okay, so this is a very, very unusual thing which has been marked. So individuals tolerate the food or exercise separately, but together, okay, foods and exercise together, typically within 4 hours, they may provoke severe IgE mediated reactions like hives, swelling, breathing issues, or full anaphylaxis. So wheat has been specifically the most common trigger. Those shellfish, fruits, or vegetables can also cause it. Risk factors of precipitants are NSAIDs, alcohol, stress, or menstruation, heightening risk by boosting intestinal permeability and allergen absorption. It often emerges in adults, including athletes, and can be life-threatening if unmanaged. Okay, so here it can also be seen in patients who are athletes, like people who are playing football and they suddenly have a cardiac arrest. So maybe it may be because of this FDEIA, or people who go to gyms and they collapse. So it can be because of FDEIA. So most important here is avoid culprit foods 4 to 6 hours before exercise. Carry epinephrine auto injectors. Emerging options include Omalizumab or oral immunotherapy for select case, plus patient education on symptoms. Consult an allergy for testing like skin prick or serum IG. So this is a very, very important question, and because it is an upcoming topic, so this can definitely be asked. So coming back to our case, so now we can understand what is FDEIA. 17-year-old generalized hives, wheezing, dizziness, 20 minutes into practice. So patient was exercising and she had already eaten a wheat containing sandwich, because wheat can be a very prominent allergen in many patients 1 hour before exercise. So options here, which feature best supports. Symptoms occur only when food ingestion is followed by exercise within a specific time window. So that is what is actually FDEIA. So option A is the right answer. B, presence of chronic urticaria between exercise sessions. Some people may not have any allergy in between. So this is not a common feature. Symptoms are triggered by any vigorous exercise regardless of reason, food intake. No. Specific intake and specific the exercise, both combinations are required. Reactions occurring immediately upon starting to eat the food before exercise are also not right. So option A is the correct answer. Right. So this is very, very important. Three points. Patient has food, patient does exercise, and this is done within a specified period of time, leading to anaphylaxis and leading to problems. Okay. Let's see another type of immunological disorder. Which infection is most commonly associated with 10 like mucopolysaccharidosis disease in adults where no recent drug exposure is identified? Option A, localized tinea pedis caused by dermatophytes. Option B, mycoplasma pneumonia, respiratory infections. Option C, Clostriditis difficile colitis. Option D, uncomplicated Escherichia coli urinary tract infection. So 10 is toxic epidermal necrosis, which is more severe form of SJS syndrome, Stevens-Johnson syndrome. In Stevens-Johnson syndrome, the area involved after drug exposure is less than 10%. If it is between 10 to 30%, it is called SJS-TEN overlap syndrome. And if it is more than 30%, then it is called toxic epidermal necrosis, TEN like syndrome. Okay. Most common trigger is drugs, but it can also be triggered by infections, and that is what is being asked here. So, in amongst these, option B, mycoplasma pneumonia has been reported to cause 10 like mucopolysaccharidosis disease in adults. Okay, so in a patient who doesn't have a clear drug trigger but a temporal relation to a respiratory illness or radiographic pneumonia is there, then mycoplasma pneumonia should be strongly suspected. Another very specific thing about mycoplasma pneumonia causing respiratory infection is the patient may have hyponatremia as a presentation. So these are two very quirks about the mycoplasma LRTI, that the patient may have TEN-like lesions or SGS-like lesions, and patient may present to you along with pneumonia, patient may have hyponatremia. Okay. Another immunological question. Which pattern of organ involvement is most commonly seen in DRESS syndrome and should be carefully monitored in ICU patients? Severe isolated pancreatitis without other abnormalities. Predominant skeletal muscle necrosis with high creatine kinase. Primary CNS demyelinating lesions. Fulminant hepatic involvement with elevated transaminase. So if you don't know anything about DRESS syndrome, then it will be very difficult. And that is why I have tried to cover very different topics in this particular session. Okay. So what is DRESS syndrome? So it is drug reaction with eosinophilia and systemic symptoms. So it is like drug reaction can lead to anaphylaxis, it can lead to SJS-10 syndrome, and it can also lead to DRESS syndrome. Okay. So this is eosinophilia and systematic symptoms. So what is more important here? It is a severe delayed type 4B type of hypersensitivity reaction. It usually occurs 2 to 8 weeks after drug exposure. So this is very, very important. Patients who later develop this fever, rash, eosinophilia, they may have underlying DRESS syndrome. And we have seen many patients who are having DRESS syndrome. And since we do not remember these syndromes, then we miss these diagnoses. Okay. High risk drugs are anticonvulsants, allopurinol, sulfonamide, dapsone, abacavir. Most often it is phenytoin in most of the series. Okay. So you can be asked which drug has most commonly can lead to DRESS syndrome. It is phenytoin. Okay. Classic triad is fever, rash, and eosinophilia, and typically it will be 2 to 8 weeks after the drug exposure. So if you don't know, you may not be suspecting it. Because what we usually see is if we are giving any drug and the patient is developing some infection, this rash, then it should have present with it to you within few days. Okay, so that is why we don't suspect very often. And it can lead to hepatitis, jaundice, which is the most common in systemic involvement. And diagnosis is by Reggie-Scar score. I don't also know about this score very much in detail. And it includes prolonged course of 2 weeks post-withdrawal. And management is immediate drug cessation, very important. You have to identify and remove it. Systemic corticosteroids, prednisolone 1 to 2 milligram per kg, taper, and consider IVIG cyclosporine for refractory or ICU cases. And it can lead to multiple complications like viral activation, autoimmune sequelae, and relapse during the steroid therapy. Okay, so here the answer will be the option D, fulminant hepatic involvement, because that is the most common involvement. Okay.